Brought to you direct from Studio 3B at Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, the American Hardwood Advisor is your source for trends, tips, and insights into how the building industry has evolved. Join me, Steve Stack, along with guest builders and industry leaders as we talk shop and go in depth on what it takes to be the best of the best. Dive into topics like architecture, industry trends, project plans, historical tools, tricks of the trade, and life's lessons from more than 6 decades of experience in the hardwood lumber business. Hey, hello everybody. Steve Stack with you again today, and back here at Studio 3B, I have a very special guest today, and it's going to be subject matter that goes way beyond the hardwood lumber industry. I have Renee Fuller from Second Harvest Food Bank of the Mahoning Valley with me. And we're gonna take some time and talk about the importance of what Second Harvest Food Bank does in the Valley and nationally, for that matter, and the importance of the philanthropy of giving back to the community, whether it be business or individuals. So with that said, Renee, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we have a bunch to talk about, and it's what you folks do in the Valley. A lot of people don't know. I know you guys do a heck of a job in marketing and getting it out there, and we've had the privilege of being a partner with Second Harvest for a number of years now, and you know, so just in general, tell us a little bit about the Second Harvest Food Bank.
Sure. First, I want to preface everything by saying thank you very much for all that you and Baird Brothers have been giving back to us over the years. I did a little math on what I know of from basically about the last 10 years, and your business alone has contributed over 527,000 meals to people in the Mahoning, Columbiana, and Trumbull counties. So that alone, I just want to thank you for more than anything.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you. And you know, that's something with the Baird family. They believe in the Mahoning Valley. They believe in community, and I know they hold the Second Harvest Food Bank very high in what's important in our day-to-day business. Mm-hmm. So you know, that's good. And I know the Second Harvest Food Bank is blessed with businesses in Mahoning, Trumbull, Columbiana counties here in Northeast Ohio that are there, you know, day in, day out, year in, year out, and that's just representative of the culture of the Mahoning Valley.
Yes.
And you guys as the folks at Second Harvest, your approach is, it makes it easy to be a partner. And you know, so with that, you know, take me through, you know, like your day-to-day. I mean, there's day-to-day operations, mm-hmm. There's day-to-day needs.
Yes.
And what kind of problems, or I don't even want to call them problems, I want to call them situations, you're a problem solver, so I guess I'm going to call it a problem. Mm-hmm. What kind of problems day to day are you faced with that you have to solve?
A lot of it will involve phone calls, or whether it's messages on Facebook or through our email, of people that are looking for help. Some people don't know where to turn. They've never had to ask for help before. We especially saw a lot of that in the last couple of years with the pandemic. We had people that were affected by job loss or even the amount of hours that they worked when they were cut back, that had to find ways to make ends meet and still take care of their family, themselves. And food became one of those things that really made things scary for people. And we received so many phone calls, and we still do now, depending on sometimes the day, the time of the month, of people that are almost in desperate situations that are looking for help. And some of them are very emotional, and it's hard to not be emotional back with them because they break your heart, and they're almost embarrassed. And we don't want anyone to ever feel embarrassed. We're there to help them, and everyone needs a helping hand any time of their lives, here or there. Sometimes it's for a moment, sometimes it might be for a while. But we are blessed that we can help everyone as best as we can, and either point them in the right direction, where to go and get the food assistance, because we have 163 different partner agencies under us that provide food.
That would include like whom? Who?
We have school pantries. We have regular pantries. Most of our pantries are in churches. We also have some homeless shelters. We have meal sites. We have some centers that take care of senior citizens and daycares. And basically all of those partners help get the food out to the people that need them the most.
Okay, so down in Youngstown, where your offices and your warehouses are at, it's a drop-off point for donations. I know that.
Yes.
You have other supply sources, food sources that deliver there, but then you have a network underneath you of, the number was 160 plus partners in your distribution network.
Yes.
Can people stop at the facility in Youngstown, or do you just distribute directly to the families there, or do you try and channel them to the churches, the schools, etc.?
We always try to channel them because we're just the warehouse. We house the food and we distribute it out to the agencies. Some will come pick it up, some we deliver to them, but we do our best to find what's closest to where someone is residing, because a lot of times if they need help with food, they may not have a lot of gas to go driving around looking for where could I go. They may need help with other items as well. So we try to be cognizant of that fact and determine what's in your neighborhood, because moving forward, then you know where you can go from that point on to get help. Sometimes there may be more than one place for them to choose what works best for them. They can also send someone on their behalf, but they would have to make that initial contact. But at the warehouse, we don't distribute it to the individuals, but we are more than happy to get them situated on where could they find that help. And another very good resource that we use besides what we know of on our own is the Help Network. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No, we have not.
They're a wonderful resource because, again, piggybacking back to what I said about sometimes if they need help with food, they may need help with other items. Help Network of Northeast Ohio, you can dial 211. They are known to help in any way, shape, or form as a resource for people. So one of their main things that they're known for is suicide prevention and awareness. So if anyone went to their website, that is the first thing they'll see. But below that on their website, they have all the icons that you could think of. Basically, if you needed help with clothing, with food, with utilities, senior citizen services, you name it. So they are a wonderful resource that people may not know about. And they know of other places other than our 163 partner agencies, which they do know about them, but they know about other places that may have food or food giveaways, distributions, etc. And they can say, this is in your area, and they just need your zip code.
Correct. So you mentioned, what was the number again?
211.
Just dial 211
Yes,
on the phone.
simplest
and
way.
You'll be in contact with them. Okay, I'm going to backtrack a little bit, and I'm trying to think back in the conversation. You referred to yourself and Second Harvest Food Bank as just a warehouse. No, folks, if you've never been, they are not just a warehouse. They have an amazing volunteer team.
We sure do.
Of front office people, from the receptionists to the staff of your normal office clerical duties, your executive director, Mike Ebers, wonderful gentleman, yourself and your position of director of development, to the fellas out in the warehouse that receive the food, whether it be by pallets or by shopping bags. I've witnessed that. And keep that warehouse meticulously organized.
And spotless.
From the dry goods side or the canned goods side to the refrigerated side. It's an operation. And then, and we haven't been able to do it the last couple of years because of the pandemic situation, but you invite volunteer groups into the facility. Folks, if you've got a team of people, reach out to Renee, and when times come back to normal, and they will, reach out to Renee, and whether you take a group of 4 people down or a group of 12 people down, they need help because some of the products you get, they're in volume.
Yes.
And they need to be broke down into serving size. For example, I'll never forget on one of my first visits, the largest bag of cereal I've ever seen in my life. I'm talking something that was probably 4 or 5 foot around and stood taller than me. And then that has to be portioned for distribution to multiple
and
families.
Labeled.
You're right? And then the warehouse guys work fantastic with the volunteers while you're there. Then you go one step further to get it out to your 160 distributors. Some of them come and pick stuff up, but you have a staff of volunteer drivers, and I know one of the gentlemen, Jay.
Everyone knows Jay.
He was he was in the delivery service business.
He can't seem to get out of that.
No, and he knows a lot of people, and what a great guy though.
He is.
He's unknowing, he's the front man of Second Harvest. And not only do they deliver to distribution areas, but when companies have collections and drives, your guys come out, pick it up, and take it back to your so-called warehouse, the understatement of the interview, and then it gets run through your system. I mean, no, it's not just a warehouse.
It is the warehouse.
Yes, yes. I mean, there is a lot of fantastic stuff going on down there. I know a little bit of the back history just because of Baird Brothers' involvement with Second Harvest, and I've had the opportunity to work with you and Mike, and I know some of the back history, but what you folks have been around down there since like 2007?
Actually, 1984 was when the actual food bank started. There's been a couple of different locations before we moved to where we are now. But yes, it started out way back then. So we're in our going to be in our 40th year this year of operation.
That's an accomplishment. Just in the sense that, and again, referencing our Mahoning Valley,
Mm-hmm.
it takes quite the staff to make all of this happen.
And we're a very small staff, so we rely on our volunteers a lot.
Right. And I know the opportunities over the years, I've had a chance to stop in for many different reasons. You're always seeing some of the same faces, and you always see new faces.
Yes.
And again, that goes back to the Mahoning Valley and people caring. And
Mm-hmm.
if folks, if you want to get involved in a community service oriented type of project, volunteering, again, they might not be able to use you right now in our situation
Right.
with the pandemic, but they're always looking for help. And downstream,
Mm-hmm.
the need is still going to be there,
Oh, yes.
and the volunteers will still be needed.
Mm-hmm.
So reach out to Second Harvest, and if nothing else, get on a list.
Mm-hmm.
For
Yes, I do keep a list, especially when we have groups that want to come in. I do have a waiting list right now, which fortunately I'm glad that we do have a waiting list. So once we are able to open back up to bring groups in, we'll be ready to go right away, because we have normal weekly volunteers that come in now. We have about 85 that are our core group that come in. Like, we'll have a Monday group, a Tuesday group, and they're the same ones that come in over and over. And they do a great job, but sometimes there's some very big projects that take a little longer, and it's very helpful when we're able to get these outside groups coming in. It might be for like a 2-hour shift. We used to do like Thursday afternoon, like 1 to 3, and sometimes Friday afternoon, 1 to 3, sometimes Saturday morning from like 9 to noon. Right now, like you said, that is on hold, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, but we're hoping to get lucky in spring. But we also have said this before. So once everything opens back up, we'll be hopefully very busy with some groups coming in to help us.
Okay, so I'm gonna I want to put that in perspective a little bit about just this little warehouse over in Youngstown. You mentioned 85 volunteers, staff coming in and out of there. You're approaching numbers of volunteers of our full-time employees.
Wow.
And look at the footprint of this operation, and we run on 120, give or take, plus employees to make this place operate every day, and you're right there at 85.
Yeah.
So just that little warehouse is not just that little warehouse,
You know,
right?
and the nice thing too, going back to the 85 volunteers, if we had to have staff for that, they're saving us about 5 to 7 full-time employees.
Yeah.
And being a nonprofit, you know, one of the big things that we try to do is be very cognizant of what we're spending on things and try to do as much as we can through the volunteers.
Very much so. Very much.
They're a big help.
And that just reinforces the point I was trying to get across. The complexity of your operation down there. There's multiple levels.
Yes.
Of from, like I mentioned earlier, from the receptionist when you walk in the door, all the way through to the drivers and everybody in between. And you know, you're talking, and I had a number presented to me, you know, since and this was, I think, just from the location where you're at now. You start talking about numbers like $1.2 million worth of food, 900,000 pounds. I mean, that it just amazes me in that the organization you have to have in that building to manage those kinds of numbers. And I know the last couple of years has been very difficult across the country, worldwide for that matter. But in the Mahoning Valley, we haven't been unblemished with this pandemic, and I know it's been tough on you folks. And I know for a while you had some National Guardsmen and National Guardswomen in doing some of the jobs of the volunteers because the volunteers weren't allowed at the facility.
Right. For about 15 months, we had the National Guard. And if we would not have been able to have them there, we had the 12 Ohio food banks had asked Governor DeWine for help because we were all in the same boat. You know, we all have a big volunteer base and we rely on them to help us get all of our different jobs done. And when we got the National Guard, it was like a godsend because we don't have enough staff to do everything that would need to be done.
Right.
And we had to figure out different ways to get the food out there than what we've ever done before. You know, when you have your pantries that maybe are worrying about the same thing the volunteers are worrying about, staying healthy, staying safe, not being affected with the pandemic, a lot of them had to switch from people coming indoors to have like a choice pantry, which means things are set up and they can basically shop through the pantry, determine what do they want or need, and take that with them, to a distribution type setup where you would drive through and people would put things in the car. That way everyone was staying safe. So that's how our traveling food pantry came about. We went across the 3 counties at fairgrounds, some schools, anywhere where we could get a few hundred cars in and out. And the Guard with them helping us, not only driving vehicles to get the food there, but lined up to help put the food in the trunks. We would have never been able to pull all of that off without their assistance.
That's amazing. And you think of Second Harvest Food Bank, and you think about private businesses. And I know we experienced it ourselves. We all had to go outside of the box and come up with a way to stay viable. And we've introduced a couple different things over the last 24, 28 months, however long it's been, too long. And it's when there's a need, you adjust.
Yes, because you have to. People are counting on you. You know, we had, and back to our warehouse guys again, some of them were going in, normally some of them are there on Saturdays getting things ready for the following week. During that whole time frame, some of them were even having to go in on Sunday. So we didn't skip a beat. I mean, we stayed open the whole time and tried to do our best to get the food out as fast as possible and in as many areas as possible. And I think we did a pretty darn good job.
I know you did a very good job. And you know, that's under those circumstances, the need of the people didn't diminish. If anything, it elevated.
Oh my gosh, it sure did, Steve. We were used to, in 19, we distributed about 11 million pounds of food. And each week, when people go to our different agencies, they track everything. So when you hear us say how many children, how many families, how many senior citizens we're serving, that's all tracked by our agencies. And at that point in 2019, we were receiving through our agencies about 11,000 requests for food assistance each week. That's really about our normal number. When the height of the pandemic began in 2020, around March, April, we went between 20 to 21,000 requests per week. Our agencies were overwhelmed. Some of them were getting double to triple the amount of people coming there. Some of them just couldn't handle it and had to shut down. So again, that's when we thought, okay, what else can we do? So we started to do those mass distributions. Right now, the numbers have leveled. We're back to around 13,000 to 14,000 requests a week, which is still high. We expect that to go up slightly because now when some of these changes that were made to help people get through during the pandemic are taken back away, we may see those numbers climb because people have counted on some extra income that they are no longer going to have to help with their families.
And something that struck me on one of my visits down there, and you just touched on families and you used the word kids. Mm-hmm. One of my visits, I witnessed, it was almost like a backpack program. And the kids have been affected the last 2 years too. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times the kids rely on food coming from school.
Yes.
And all of a sudden the kids aren't going to school, so they're not on their lunch programs, and where do they turn?
You had mentioned the backpack program, and that program has now been replaced by the school pantry program. And why we did that is we are able to serve many more students that way. The backpack program really had a great result, but you could most of the time only help maybe 20 to 30 children in a school district at a time. So now with the school pantry, you can help 20 to 30 school children a day or more. So the pantries came about, and as you said, the children that rely on schools when they were open for their breakfast and lunch, sometimes snacks, some even were doing dinners. And when the schools went remote, that made another hardship on the families because then they have those children home and they had to feed them. So some of the schools did create a way to still get food to the children through using their school pantries.
Right.
We did do a few distributions at some schools as well too, and that helped. But that extra burden really made a difference on those families. You know, because when your children are home, they're not just eating maybe breakfast or lunch. There's some snacks in there that they want, you know, like we do too, you know. So that's a whole nother problem that people were facing. And thank goodness for the school pantries and some of those school personnel that stepped up to try to figure out ways to be able to get food out to those families as fast as possible too. And working with us, we made a lot of that happen as well with them.
And the situation we found ourselves in over the last couple of years is really, it's pushed a lot of companies, organizations to the limit. And before I ask you the next question I have in mind, I want to tell people that you don't have to volunteer 40 hours a week, 20 hours a week. You might have availability in your own personal schedule to where Renee can find something for you to do for 4 hours a day, one particular day of the week or 2 days of the week.
Boy,
so,
can I.
Yeah, right. And you know, so I have my reasons for involvement and an appreciation of what you folks do. But, you know, go ahead and in your own words, tell folks, why do they want to become involved? I know you have a heck of a team down there. It's not a team. It's like out here at Baird's. It's a family. Mm-hmm.
First, we're so proud of what we do, and I don't think you can not come in to do what we're doing without feeling like you're helping someone. You might be helping your neighbor down the street that you don't even know is needing any assistance, because most time people will keep that private and don't want to ask for help. So you cannot even begin to imagine how many people you could be helping. The child down the street that maybe comes to play with your own children, that may be going home and not having anything to eat, like what your family is able to have. So just the philanthropy part of giving back, whether it's your time, or even trying to help, like if you know of a neighbor, even if you aren't able to come help at the food bank, if you know of someone that maybe needs a ride to go to get their food, that's been a big hurdle for a lot of families. We would get a lot of phone calls from places where people were, or even people themselves saying, I'm afraid to go out, or I can't go out. Is there someone that can deliver? Or I don't have a car, I don't have a ride. So by helping them do things like that, you're helping the food bank as well. So you don't necessarily even have to be at the food bank to help. There's things that you can do outside of the food bank. Food drives are a big help to us. What I always try to stress with people that want to do food drives, we have, different companies do it, schools do it, individuals do it. There's no right or wrong. Things that people need are not always the regular staples that we always say that we need. Sure, we need those all the time, right. But think outside the box. When you go shop, what do you like to get? So maybe put that into perspective of, well, this family might like to have some of these items, including paper products, hygiene products. A lot of those things are very costly. We get, a lot of products in, but there are a lot of things that we don't have access to, or we get limited access to. So by having people do food drives and bring things into us, that gets things out to those different pantries. And when people go to those pantries, they get to see some items that they don't expect to see. They're always going to see the macaroni and cheese there, and the peanut butter, and, like maybe the canned tuna and the pastas and cereals and juices. But it's nice to have a fun cake mix, maybe. It might be very helpful for some hygiene products, or some paper towels, soaps, things like that. So we do take pretty much any of that, because then we can pass that along. And I myself have worked at a pantry before as a volunteer, and seen the looks on the faces of the people when they see something new and different in there, and they get so excited, and it almost makes them feel like I am able to get some other things for my family that I didn't expect to get here today. One story that I have, in fact, that really had put such an effect on me, when I was volunteering at the one pantry that I was involved in, there was a lady that had come in with her little girl. And, pantries get baked goods in there from time to time. And a lot of our baked goods, we'll get things brought to us, or we'll pick up from like Sam's Club, Walmart, Giant Eagles in the area. And their bakery departments, they might have some things that might be close to date, or maybe they baked too much. Or maybe the cake slid in the box and the one side's not so pretty. I don't know about you, but I would still eat it if it wasn't as pretty. So this lady was there with her young child, and there was a really cute cupcake set. If you've ever seen those ones that they've done in a shape, like at Sam's Club, for example. And it was really cute. A couple of the cupcakes were a little off on the side. She grabbed the box and she started crying. And here it was because it was her daughter's birthday that day. She didn't know what she was going to do for her birthday. She wanted to celebrate it, but she really didn't have the funds to go and get something like that, let alone worry about a gift. And she was so emotional because that solved that little bit of a problem for her.
Oh, sure.
So just think of things like that, just that make people happy. And it just really makes a difference on, even when you go to the store, when we have like Feed Our Valley and we're collecting in the stores, or Harvest for Hunger, and you put something in those collection boxes, it could be anything that you think of that, boy, I want to make sure somebody gets this and bring a smile to somebody's face today.
You know what, and I'm listening, paying attention to what you're saying, and a couple thoughts came to my mind. You said about a cake mix, and my mind automatically went to, what kid doesn't like brownies.
Sure.
Right?
Or that funfetti cake mix where you get to put the sprinkles
exactly.
in. Yeah.
And something that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And then is in conversation, I'm thinking of the support group that you folks have. It's from somebody, a retiree,
Mm-hmm.
that might be looking for a little something to do. And then my mind skipped forward, and folks, go to the website for Second Harvest Food Bank, Mahoning Valley, and take a look and just familiarize yourself with the program. And I've done it, having the benefit of a relationship with you folks, and going to. It takes the volunteers from the gal at the reception desk to past or present business owners of the valley, mm-hmm. to help in your administrative approach. And okay, this is what we have to work with, the business mindset. And you have those people in place in your board of directors.
Yes, we do. We have a very good board of directors from a little bit of every segment.
Exactly. And so when we talk about volunteers, they're from folks that have retired from a secretarial position to presidents of some major corporations in the valley, mm-hmm. and everywhere in between. So if you think you can't help out, this is a place you can help out. It's amazing. It's amazing. You mentioned a couple of your major food drives, another one, and we love to support Taste of the Valley.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about Taste of the Valley.
Well, Taste of the Valley is going to be in its 30th year this year. We had to skip a year, unfortunately, in 20 because of the pandemic, and we almost skipped last year. We just wanted to kind of keep people safe and social distance, and plus the restaurant business. The Taste of the Valley is where area local restaurants will come in and basically prepare food, and they can compete in different categories of appetizer, main course, dessert, and then just overall. And that overall also includes how they decorate their space. And we have it every year at Stambaugh Auditorium, and it's the first Sunday in October. And we usually would have between 500 to 600 people, and that includes volunteers, because again, our volunteers are a core help to that, setting up and kind of making sure everything goes smoothly there for us. So when we did it this past year, we cut that down into half. We weren't sure if we wanted to do it that way, but we thought, you know what, let's try. And normally we have about 20 different restaurants and beverage providers. This year we were down to 12. And that speaks volumes of what a lot of our friends in the restaurant business are going through and continue to go through. Yet, the ones that were able to still either run their business and be there at the same time, or if they happen to be closed since it's on a Sunday, just to even have the amount of help, because they will have the food there for people to go around and taste, and they are judged. There's a panel of judges that select the winners, but it also gets them a little more notoriety of, if you may not know that there's this restaurant in your area, or you might taste something that you have never had before and you think, wow, that's great, I want to go there. So it was a little struggle for everyone this year, but we pulled it off, and we're hoping when we do it in this October that we can go back a little bit higher in the numbers, but we also didn't mind it being like that. It was a little more intimate, but it is one of our big events that we just really, really love, because we have a silent auction usually, and then we'll have like a basket raffle. And it's just a nice way for people to come together and sit and see what is out there available in our valley. People don't even realize how many different great restaurants we have.
I've had the privilege of being able to attend a few different times. This past year I was out of town and I missed it, and I was very disappointed. It's a win-win. Mm-hmm. If you're coming as a ticket purchaser and enjoying the restaurants put out an amazing display, and it is just that. It is Taste of the Valley. And so whether you're seated at a table or whether you're that owner of the restaurant, whether it be an established restaurant or an up-and-coming restaurant, yes, they're winning because they're getting the exposure to a lot of people that evening who, when they leave, you won't believe what I had last night at Taste of the Valley as soon as they hit the door at work on Monday, right? Mm-hmm. But more importantly, I know that particular evening is one of your larger fundraisers, no?
Yes. Yeah, that usually brings us in about $50,000, which is very, very helpful.
Yeah, and that translates to how many meals?
300,000.
You know, that amazes me, and it's not that you guys have that kind of buying power to take that dollar amount and convert it into portions or servings, meals. It's the money that's generated at Taste of the Valley and Harvest for Hunger and the other some of your larger fundraisers. But you know, I know we have invited you folks out in our partnership. We too have had to change the last couple of years, and we have not been able to host our Red, White, and True event, our fall festival of American craftsmanship. And we always enjoy having you folks there. And it's an easy day for us as a company to kind of leverage the people a little bit, you know, and our approach that day, as we're serving hot dogs and hamburgers and donuts, as simple as putting a little jar next to that service counter. And we've had success. And then we also collect food goods that day. And it's a win-win, again, because there's people come to our festival and second harvest of the valley, what's this about? And it might be their first time of being introduced to you folks. And we enjoy that so much, you know, and we look forward going down the road to getting back to normal, where we can have those types of events again. And it's huge. It's huge. And like I said, whether it's a pallet of food or whether it's literally a grocery bag sack of food being donated,
every little bit helps.
Right?
It's that much more that we have that we didn't have a few minutes ago.
What's, you know, and we touched on it a little bit, and if you just want to recap on it, if folks want to get involved and give back to the community, there's an array of ways to do it. Take the folks through them. Sure.
If you wanted to donate money, there's several different ways. Just put a check in the mail. You can also go right to our website, mahoningvalleysecondharvest.org. And at the opening page at the very top is a blue button that says donate. And you can go on that. It is a secure portal for donations that goes directly into our system. And you can donate directly on there. You can call us and donate over the phone, and we'll take your credit card information. You can stop by and drop off a check or cash or anything. You can also stop by and drop off food. If it's a larger amount, it would be more helpful if you called us so that we can make sure that we can help you get the food out of your car, whether it's one of us getting a grocery cart or if it's a larger amount. We'll get the guys involved and have you pull up to one of the dock areas. But there's so many different ways, and if anyone thinks of anything that they're not sure if we could use or that they could do for us, you can call us. Our number is 330-792-5522, and we'll work something out or figure something out with you, including as far as volunteering. We do have a little bit of a waiting list, like I said, but we're always looking for extra help, because once we're able to open up fully and have more help in there, we'll want to get moving on that pretty quickly. So I'm starting to keep a list, and we can gladly add to that list. We usually can take up to about 15 volunteers at one time for space-wise, and if we needed to social distance, that still gives us enough space for that. And then when we don't have to social distance, we might be able to go up as far as 20 volunteers at one time for groups. So, but basically, any help that you can think of that as far as doing a food drive or a funds drive, if you have a fun idea or a different idea that you want to run by us and need our help with anything, we have the boxes there for you to collect. We can come up with ideas for you. We have posters. We're open to any new ideas, as well as we can give you some new ideas that maybe you hadn't thought about that have worked for other places.
And that's I'm glad you touched on that end of it, because I was going to ask, for any businesses out there that may be joining us today, you don't throw a ton of extra work on that business to participate in one of your fund drives or your food drives. Get in contact with Renee, and it really, you mentioned it could be as simple as placing a couple collection totes throughout your business. And do you have any initiative coming up right now as far as?
Very soon. We have Harvest for Hunger that we've talked about a little bit. That's one of our biggest campaigns, and that is going to start March 1st, and it's going to actually go a little longer this year. It's going to go until May 31st. And it's all for food banks in Northeast Ohio that participate in this. So it's not just us, it's Akron, Canton, Cleveland, and then the Lorraine Food Bank with us. So you'll be seeing the posters and signage and the collection bins for food in the Sparkle Market stores, and then the Giant Eagle stores will be doing the collections of the money. Sparkle Markets will also too. They call it Checkout Hunger, if anyone is familiar with that. But that will be coming up, and part of what goes on then is after all of the rush of food coming in from Feed Our Valley, most people think about during the holidays, as we don't want someone to go without food during the holidays. People go without food all year long, so there's always a need. But Harvest for Hunger is when we basically use that to restock all of our food drives and other food in the warehouse. And right now, with having some supply issues, which is a whole nother factor, it's nice to be able to get some extra things coming in. So Harvest for Hunger, we have outside food drives and fund drives that go on, and that's just as important as what the Sparkle and the Giant Eagles are doing to help us. So again, that starts March 1st and it will end May 31st. And a lot of times we'll have schools that will get involved in some businesses, and we have some fun ideas for some competitions. We like to do competitions, and especially if we got a couple schools to compete against each other. We have some real big stars out there for schools that will throw down and collect and try to beat their record each year. So that makes it a lot of fun. But sometimes, at a business, whether you use like a game, a basketball game that's going on, and say, I'm for this team, I'm for that team, and have like a collection and do something along those lines and make it competitive, that's when it really gets to be a lot of fun. And we love that.
Yeah, definitely. And so it's you make it as easy as possible to help.
Oh, for sure.
And I hope through our conversation today, ladies and gentlemen, that we've given you a little encouragement to get involved with Second Harvest Food Bank of the Valley, whether it be on the local level, the national level. There's a need. And to borrow one of you guys' slogans, and I love it, together we can make a difference.
Yes, for sure. And, you know, the difference can be very small. Some people will say, well, I only have $1. $1 provides up to 6 meals.
That's amazing.
So because of what we're able to do with that, because we're a member of Feeding America. So we really can stretch the dollar far. But if you can't do that and you're cleaning out your cabinets and you're thinking, oh, I have food that I don't need, or food that I'm not sure, it might say something that I can't tell if it's expired or not. That's what we do at the warehouse. Our volunteers in the back, they go through all of those donations and determine whether or not it is safe to go out to someone.
I remember on one of our visits with one of our groups, you go down there, folks, and they just don't throw you out in the warehouse and say, do this, do that. They take the time to explain to you the expiration dates.
It's not what you and I think they are. That's what's kind of amazing.
I mean, that was a big thing. And the breakdown of the larger volumes of this and that. And so please volunteer, but know darn well that when you go down there, you're going to be treated like kings and queens because they appreciate your help that much. So get involved, make a difference. And Renee, before we part, anything else you'd like to say?
I just want to say thank you to everyone that helps us already in the Mahoning Valley. We have so many good, generous people in our area. And because of you and your caring, we can't continue to do what we do without all of that. And people have really, really risen to the challenge, especially these last couple of years, to help their neighbors and their friends and their family. And from the bottom of our heart, we say thank you. And like he said, together we can make a difference. And so no one goes hungry.
Renee, thank you for the visit today.
Thank you so much.
And when you get back, make sure you tell Mike and the team our best wishes, and looking forward, we look for continued great partnership with Second Harvest of the Valley. Folks, this was a good one. I like this one. So stay tuned, all of the social platforms, BairdBrothers.com, Content Studio, visit Second Harvest Food Bank on the web, and get involved. But for now, thanks. We'll see you soon. For all you folks listening, thanks for talking shop with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. If you've enjoyed this episode and want to stay up to date with the American Hardwood Advisor series, give us a like and subscribe. For more tips, projects, and inspiration, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, or at BairdBrothers.com. Until next time,